Hello, this is William Cunningham of My Hope in Marriage, and I'm coming to you today with another episode to help you have a happy and fulfilling marriage. You can visit us on the web at www.myhopeinmarriage.com. And what My Hope in Marriage is about is to provide resources to help you forge ahead to establish a happy and fulfilling marriage. Now, what I want to talk about today, let's get right to it. What I want to talk about today is this concept of synchronizing or having synchronized compatible marriage type expectations, especially before marriage and even after the wedding day. Because a lot of people get married because they're in love or what have you, and they don't really think about some of the components, or even more importantly, the expectation of your spouse as far as what a marriage would look like. And of course, taking into account your expectations of marriage and relaying that information to the one you propose to marry. That's very important that you have that synchronization of expectations. Otherwise, you may start clashing. She's expecting one thing and you're expecting something else, and you just can't get together. And then you just fall apart. So it's important that you have this synchronization or this compatibility in the type of marriage that you expect. So we're going to talk about, is your marriage what you hoped it would be as far as the type of marriage? Now, let's go over some types of marriage. And you can look this up online or you can research it yourself. And there are different types of marriage. I'm homing in on a few different types, and these are not like some official list or anything like that. These are just types of marriages that I've categorized myself. All right. Okay. The first type of marriage is romantic marriage. Okay. And you might say that typically a marriage starts off with a high romantic content. Some, not all. All right. Because there's some marriages that start off with have nothing to do with romance. Okay. But a type of marriage is romantic marriage. And that's when the couple are very highly emotionally connected. Of course, there's sensual sex and all that kind of stuff is high on the priority, and it is implemented highly in the marriage, especially from the beginning in what we call the honeymoon phase of the marriage. Okay, so a romantic type of marriage. Another type of marriage is a disengaged type of marriage. And this is a style of marriage where the two are disengaged from each other emotionally and sometimes even spatially. You know, they might even live in the same house. They might not even be in the same state. You know, there may be a situation where the husband has to leave for work, you know, for a job or something like that, and they just don't get back together, and they might even get comfortable living apart. So that's another type of disengaged marriage where you live apart. Okay, long distance marriage, or the couple could even be separated. You know, in other words, they're disengaged emotionally and sometimes even spatially or in locale or physically. Another type of marriage is a functional marriage. And this is, I think, a common one where the couple aren't necessarily romantic. You know, romance and sensuality and even sex relationships are not high on the list, but the couple do get along. They get along. They get things done. The kids are clothed and fed. The house is taken care of. Bills are paid. That's a functional marriage. Another type of marriage is ulterior, what I call an ulterior marriage. And in this case, you may have You may see something called parenting marriage, financial. Basically, this is the type of marriage where the person wants to marry you, or even maybe you want to marry the other person, not because of this desire to form one flesh, if you will, this desire to be one, to come together and be one couple or one unit. You're getting married because of an ulterior motive. Maybe a man is marrying a woman because he wants somebody to clean the house and raise the kids. All right. She may be marrying someone because she wants to have children and she wants a moral environment to do so. So she gets married to someone. It's not about the person. It's not about the person that you want to marry. It's not about, for example, from a guy's perspective, it's not necessarily about the wife, the woman. I want to be with her. I want to commit to her for the rest of my life. Is I want her to do this for me. And that's why you get married. That's an ulterior marriage. It's not about the person. It's about what that person can do, what that person brings to the table. Which, I'm not saying that that's not important, but that's the reason why they get married. That's the type of marriage that they have. All right. They just want you to fulfill some type of ulterior motive for the relationship. Another type of marriage is what I'm going to call a life. Well, this is not really a marriage, but I want to distinguish. It can be not a marriage. In other words, there's a phrase called life partner, which characterizes two people who are committed to each other, but they don't get married. But they may be just as committed as if they were married, but they don't go through the process to get officially married, legally bounded. So that's called a life partner. But in this context here right now, I'm talking about as far as a marriage type, this is a person that you might call your soulmate. This is a person that is partnering with you. All right, they want to be with you. They want to come together with you and fulfill life together with you. They want to be your partner and you want to be their partner. All right, in life, you want to grow together. You want to grow together and fulfill that partnership, that relationship, that marriage. Of course, you may become parents. You may, start a business together or whatever the case may be, but you are about being life partners, all right, in this context, because that phrase is used for another situation as well. Okay, so those are some different types of marriages, and or the behavior of those marriages or how those marriages are run and so forth. You have the romantic, you have the disengaged, you have functional, ulterior, and life partner. Now, you may think of others. Some may be a subset of these or whatnot, but these are different types of marriages that people have. Okay, now let me talk now about a life partner, but not in the context of a marriage, in the context where the people do not get married. Like I said, life partner. Maybe if I call it a type of marriage, let's call it a soulmate. Let's do that. Instead of saying a type of marriage is a life partner, like I just said, just say that that's your soulmate. All right. So now another type of relationship that's where the couple is not married to each other is called life partner. And here a person is committed to each other. They may have children, they may not, or what have you, just like a married couple, but they're committed to each other in a long-term relationship. However, they do not get officially or legally married. So that there's some, maybe pros and cons, I don't know, but there's some consequences of that in the fact that, there could be an issue when the couple breaks up, as far as who gets what and so forth, because they're not married. They don't have any legal standing or what have you. But I don't want to talk about that. So a life partner in this case is someone who does not get married. All right. And that is becoming, I guess, popular because today people are avoiding marriages, especially the guys, because of the modern women attitude. They don't want to be bothered with that, you know. So the men are avoiding marrying because they don't want to be stuck with a woman like that, a modern woman, who they feel all she wants is his resources, and she's going to marry him and then later on divorce him and get half his stuff. Okay? So a lot of guys are avoiding the traditional, or they're avoiding marriage completely, building their own life. Okay? All right. So now, marriage itself is a lifelong commitment, solidified by legally binding yourself. You see, you're really, really committed to each other, and you're demonstrating that by announcing it publicly. In other words, you have a marriage ceremony or you have a witness. You get officially or legally married, right? Right? So you've established that it's public, it is official, and it is long-term, life lasting for the rest of your life. That's the intent of a true marriage, that this is a lifelong relationship until death we part. Okay? Life partner isn't like that. All right? So I just want to bring that life partner up because a lot of guys are subscribing to that path. So when you get married, okay, before you get married, you need to check and you need to be certain and know that the person you want to marry have the same idea, or at least a compatible expectation of the type of marriage or what you expect in a marriage. That's important. For example, let's say you go on a job interview. Well, that company wants to know if you're a good fit, right? They're going to want to know what you know, what your attitude is, what kind of person you are, and so forth and so on. And you want to do the same thing for that company. You know, you look for a church. You want to find out what that church is like. What do they teach and preach, and what do they believe, and so forth and so on, so that you can know that if you're compatible or not. So you want to make sure that that person you plan on marrying, that you want to propose to, is indeed compatible to your desires and your goals, your expectation, your life pursuits, and so forth and so on. You never marry someone simply because you fell in love. If you do that, that's a big mistake. All right? That's a big mistake from the beginning. And I've said that a number of times. Love is not a good reason to get married. Now, of course, you may love the person that you marry, but all marriages don't start that way. Some marriages are arranged. Some marriages are more of a business relationship, or it's more of a functional. Two people get married because the woman got pregnant, outside of wedlock, and they want to be moral about it and so forth and so on. But even that is not necessarily a good reason to get married, because you may be totally incompatible and you bind yourself together, and that's just going to cause a lot of problems. So when you want to marry someone, you have to ensure that you're getting the person that you're expecting to get, and that person is going to help forge a marriage that you expect to have. Now, since people, in my opinion, in my observation, people don't really spend a lot of time determining that before they get married. They fall in love, they think this is the right person, so they propose quickly. Sometimes it's in months. And, maybe you get lucky, but you really need to be diligent in determining if this is the lifelong partner that you expect. This is a lifelong thing, so it's not something that you take lightly. Check, be sure, be certain that that person you're marrying is indeed the person that you want to marry, the person that you believe is going to provide the expectation of marriages, who's going to build the kind of marriage relationship that you expect. Now, if you're already married and you have discovered that your spouse is not necessarily on the same page as what you expect in a marriage, then you've got some work to do. That's a serious situation. And a lot of people fall apart because they discover over time that they are simply not on the same page. They might not even be compatible, right? For example, a guy marries a woman because he wants to have this lifelong partner, someone to journey through life with, someone who build a life. He wants to share his life with this woman, but he finds out that her motive for getting married was that she wanted to be a mother. She wanted security. Now, not that she doesn't want those things. Of course, you want security. You may want to be a mother, or the guy wants to be a father, but that's not the reason that you expect her to be married. You expect her to marry you because she wants to marry you. She wants to be with you. And you expect to have kids, you expect to have whatever. Okay? So that's important. Now, if you find that out after the wedding day, you just got to work. Communication, communication, communication is the key. Communicate with your spouse any issues that you have with the relationship, any unfulfilling practices, and you have to be respectful, because if you're not, people are going to clam up. But you have to express your feelings about the relationship. And you have to be willing to hear your spouse's feelings about the relationship. And sometimes those feelings or that information can be quite undesirable to hear. All right. But it's when you get through that conflict, there's resolution on the other side of conflict. So you get through that. And now at least you can work together to forge maybe not exactly what you want, but you can come together, compromise or what have you, work together to form a marriage that you both are happy with, that you are both fulfilled, and that your expectations have been regenerated so that you're on the same page. Now, some may be more difficult to others. If you marry someone and you're expecting kids and they're marrying someone, they're marrying you and they don't want any kids, well, you've got a problem. Okay, but you still at least talk about it, work it through. Maybe you can come to some conclusion. You're not going to come to a resolution if you don't talk about it. If you don't say that there's a problem, you don't share your feelings and so forth and your thoughts about the relationship. So it's very important that you understand that you need to monitor the compatibility of a marriage especially before you get married, so that you can ensure that, hey, this is the right person that's going to fulfill this expectation. And you may have to adjust that expectation. You expect 10 kids and she expects no more than 4. Then, okay, we'll have 3, whatever. Or we'll have 5, whatever the case may be. But you need to talk about it. That's very important in any relationship, is to communicate. Talk about it. Express your feelings, your thoughts, and work things out. Because as far as a marriage is concerned, it's a long-term, lifelong relationship. You need to work things out. I mean, we even do that on our jobs and so forth. So do it with your spouse. Be diligent to ensure that you marry, or that you propose even, to the person that you feel is compatible with your desires, with your expectations, and the picture that you have in your mind of what a marriage will look like. And likewise, your mate should do the same. And you come together and you talk about all this stuff before you even propose. You talk about all this stuff. Okay? So that's just something I wanted to leave with you, is being aware of these different types of marriage, these different perspective, a different how people see marriage, what marriage looks like to them, and that means that's what they're going to expect. But if you're a romantic type and they're just a business type, or they're just a functional, then you're going to have some problems. So that's why communication is important. You need to be aware of this aspect of marriage. Okay, I had a little technical difficulty there. But like I was saying, you need to be aware of basically your spouse's or soon to be spouse's expectation of marriage. You need to be aware of the fact that you expect a certain type of marriage. What do you expect from your spouse? What do you want your marriage to look like? And know what what she or he expects a marriage to look like. Communicate, get that done, and you can move forward to create a long-lasting, happy, and fulfilling marriage. It's going to take work, all right, because you are in a committed relationship. I have an ebook called What Happens to Love and Marriage. You need to get that if you haven't already, because that explains what happens to, love and how you feel about each other in the marriage relationship as time goes on. So you need to get that, all right? What Happens to Love and Marriage? Get that ebook, all right? Well, anyway, this is William Cunningham of My Hope in Marriage. I pray that this has been helpful to you and that you can use it to help your marriage or to help you prepare for marriage, okay? Again, you can visit us on the web, myhopeinmarriage.com. And until next time, be blessed.